Inland from the lonely sea, secret lanes and winter fields shelter ancient church and ancient street, quiet beneath the morning's warming sun. Far from traffic, town and concrete scene, the village stays in outward calm, wrapped around its happy past, but fearful of its future years. To passing stranger, wandering guest, the village people stay the same as many generations gone before. But every month, the time draws near when village and its people face a change. The cities beckon from afar its young, and seeking village peace come old, retired, the rich but never poor, and wheeled seekers after solitude, sheep-like, to despoil the peace they seem to need, yet fear. And so, beneath the face, the change is there and gone too far to stop. Wherever sun and sea and open green and quiet country lane are altogether empty and forgot, the past is threatened by the wind of crowded life. And those who luckily remain are conscious in their numbered days that every village faces emptiness or death.
I've been in the force now nearly 30 years. I suppose really I'm one of the last of the line of the old type of policeman, the old type of village policeman, to police the village as it's always been done. Duty in a village like this, a summer resort really, and during the winter months there are quite a number of the local people who leave the district and perhaps go abroad for their own holidays. Under those circumstances, I've always got a number of houses that are unoccupied during the winter and which need to be looked after. And this being a village on the coast, we get a tremendous amount of people here during the summer months, and not all of them, I'm afraid, especially the younger ones, abide by the rules that should be.
When I eventually left school, it was difficult to choose what I'd do with my life. There isn't a great deal of opportunity in a small village for a young girl. The city held more. I'd have a better chance of having an occupation, a career behind me. I meet a lot of people in my job, which is more than you meet in a village. Life becomes slightly narrow. It's the same people every day, whereas in a big city, you're meeting different people every day.
That sheep buyer, gentlemen, over this way, please. Driving here, and gentlemen, with 5 hogs here for Mr. Alfred Cleve. There we are, 5 hogs here at 42s. From going to my election, how much do I tell them? At 6 of each, 28 there, at 6 there. At 6 of each, 28 there, 2 at 6, 2. At 6, 1, 2 of each, 28 there, 4, 6, 4. At 6, 1, 4 of each, 28 there, guinea at 6, guinea. At 6 guineas of each, 28 there, 8 at 6, 8. At 6 pound 8 of each, 28 there, and 9 and 0. At 6 pound 8 of each, 28, so no. Hey! Next man here, the gentleman, 5 hogs here for Mr. Paul Condor. 5 hogs there at 55 there they are, then put them up on my election, what's it in? 7 men gonna be 28 there at 7 men 10. At 7 men gonna be 28 there, 11 at 7 men, 11 men 12 at 7 men 12. At 7 men 12 at 13, 7 men 13, 40. At 7 men 40 to make 10, 15, 7 men 15, 20.
It was a lovely day when we came down the road. Sun was shining, perfect really. We get quite a good view at the top of the hill there, over the houses to the sea. Just going down the hill, we came across this shop, and it looked so village shoppy. It's thatch roof, little blind down. Perfect, really. We both had the same feeling that this was the place. I'd like to live here. The village street. It was marvellous. And we came inside and had a look inside the shop first of all. The shop was marvellous. Had things hanging from the ceiling. All sorts of things. dishcloths, pens, combs, everything. And marvellous smell about it, of tea and spice and sugar, that sort of thing. A real country shop. And that did it even more. I mean, that was really the sort of shop we wanted. Winter trade in this area is usually known to drop right off. But here it keeps a nice steady pace all the way through. And it can almost double in the summer, and in fact it does. Get a lot of visitors come down. And the other beauty of it is that you never have any trouble with money. Never have any bills outstanding, anything like that, even with the summer people.
Farming's a hard life, regards work. You get all weathers, all hours. Sometimes we start from 5 in the morning till 10 at night. And well, a farm of this size would, I suppose, take £20,000 to stock with machinery and livestock. And if somebody came along and offered me £50,000 or £60,000 worth of farm, I'd only take the cheque and go and buy another to start all over again.
Most of the staff leave us. We don't have to actually sack them. They seem to go and find winter jobs. The rest of us which stay on here, we have a holiday first, and then we start to decorate, to undo the vandalism which is done, such as cigarettes stamped out on carpets, writing on walls. And then we start to decorate properly, undo the tattiness. The heads of departments stay on and wield a nifty paintbrush from time to time. People in the garage come in and they do the electric wiring, and they take a hammer and chisel and do the carpentry. All this, of course, is a tremendous upset, and it costs a great deal of money. When my grandfather started this business about 80 years ago, standards are very much different from what they are now. For instance, in those days, nobody had their own swimming pool at home. But now they have, and we had to build our own. It cost us about £10,000 to do it, even though we did it with our own labour in the winter. In the old days, they used to bathe in the sea. Now they don't do it anymore. They bathe here in the warm. They're cooking, kitchens, lounges, even the ballroom we've redecorated this year, so that it's rather more in keeping with what people are used to and what they get in other places. We've built ourselves a new car park, which is about 3 times as big as the previous car park, so that people can park more easily. It's such a change from the cities to be able to park in an easy manner. And people don't come to a small village unless they have some attraction when they get here. So we try and make it as comfortable as we can. This, I think, is the difference between hotels and boarding houses. Hotels try to give the customer exactly what he wants, where a boarding house gives him what he thinks they ought, what the owner thinks they ought to have.
I've been down in this part of the world for about 18, 19 years now. I like the climate down here. Above all, I like the people. I found great friendliness. I've been here quite a long time, but I don't find there's very much difference in a village like this between the village people and the retired people like myself. People who've come down here on a small pension and a small income in most cases. Dividends dwindle and the cost of living goes up, but we do manage to live very comfortably here, even though we have to watch the pennies all the time. I've lived all my married life practically in the East, and one of the great joys, of course, is to, when you live alone, as I do because my family's in Canada, is to be able to unpack your belongings and collect all the things that you grew up with and have them round you, and as you grow older, they really are a great joy. And then, of course, above all, I have my garden. Of course, gardening in the West is ideal, especially in a place like this. There are lots of elderly ladies like myself who've had big gardens, and what a joy it is to get into something small, also something like this where you can not bend too much. Of course, gardening isn't the only things we do here. We have lots of social activities. There's the usual sherry party, sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the evening, which is always great fun. Mostly hen parties. The husbands are too busy. And we also have bridge parties. Some people gamble, there's gambling going on. And there's club bridge and chatty bridge. I belong to chatty bridge lot. And of course, there's television. People get mad on television. I even had a friend who, when I rang her up, her husband came to me and said, "You can't talk to her now because she must see the end of The Saint." And that sort of thing goes on, but it's the same everywhere. People say, "How can you live in the country? You must be so dull." I say, I'm like the Irish. The day's gone on me before I start. I'm so busy. Then, of course, in the country, especially in an area like this, you at least have time to stand and stare and to listen. You see, our bird song is so beautiful. You don't ever get bird songs that you can listen to as you can in the country.
Wild brick and blowing tile. The buildings spread upon the land where sheep and cows for years have safely grazed. The fields grow houses where the corn once grew, no longer yield their annual food, but sleep beneath herbaceous border, gravel path. In tracted furrows, men plant drains, but farmers' bank accounts grow fat, as was their stock, and cushion sadness at the passing of an age when farming meant the tilling of the soil. Where will it stop? Must all the patchwork hills succumb to joist and hod and lathe? Must new towns stand where ancient villages once stood? For pipes and concrete make such strange foundations for a green and pleasant land.
This cottage is used as a holiday cottage by a lady who lives in the South Midlands. And it's almost certain to be bought by somebody else for a holiday cottage. It's just possible that it might be bought by a young local professional or businessman, but that isn't particularly likely. A cottage like this would be on the market at between £4,500 and £5,000. This type of cottage, of course, originally was an agricultural labourer's cottage. I knew this cottage about 12 years ago, and it was then merely a shell. It had to be completely gutted and a large amount of money spent on it. And I think in this case the price paid was about £1,000, although it was possible to pick up cottages in less favourable positions at probably £300 or £400. The effect of the people buying cottages for holiday cottages has been to force prices up, and as a result the young people working in the district have found it very difficult to buy property. As this is such a popular retirement area, it is possible that a cottage like this might be bought by a retiring couple. this again helps to force up the prices. And as is common in all country districts, the young people tend to go away. There's no industry to keep them here, and although it is a very pleasant district, there isn't a lot of life for them. It is true that in many coastal villages during the winter, a very small proportion of the houses are occupied at all, and they are more or less dead villages. This is most unfortunate, but you must remember that the tourist trade and agriculture are our only basic industries, and the tourist trade has led to the development of holiday cottages and this tendency. However, I don't think the locals resent the holiday makers. We all benefit from them. They all put money in our pockets, either directly or indirectly. And therefore, I think it is rather unkind of certain people in the district to use the expression golden plague.
For 7 weeks of summer, in their cars come visitors from Midland Town and Northern Street, the refugees from London grime, all lemming-like hell-bent towards the sea. Swing doors revolve on well-heeled guests. It's how are you, and welcome back, and was your journey down a pleasant one? In sea-view dining rooms, the foreign waiters wait. Good morning, sir. Good morning, ma'am. The linen tables are ashine with sunlit glass, electroplate, and from the subterranean kitchens come the scampi frites, the sole bonne femme. In heated outdoor pools, the richer swim, their wallets wrapped in towels and nothing on their minds, hygienic, safe, and free of sand. So different from the beach, where poorer mortals in the wind do battle with their flapping underclothes. In wintertime, the oyster catchers play along these dunes, but now the golden plague holds sway, transistorized and litter-girt against the sea. Their plastic bottles, tinfoil wraps, old rubber sandals swamp the beach and seem remembered from a previous year. For nature's tides and flotsam from the passing ships are nothing in the face of this. And close at hand, impromptu car parks shimmer in the sun, lines of hot chrome, the luxury of solid plastic. All comfort to the people who, when the shadows of the sinking sun grow long, will climb inside their precious motor cars, safe from the darkening world of windy headland, open field, anxious to feel again the solid pavement underfoot.
Really, I suppose this isn't a typical village, because there are just two types of people mainly living here. One is the elderly retired type, very often with money, and the other is the agricultural worker. This, I feel, is in some ways a pity, but it also means that in other ways the village suffers too. I've noticed in several of the villages that I've known that children in the schools appear to have travelled only a very, very short distance away from the place. In this particular school, for instance, there are some children who've never even been as far as Exeter, which is only a matter of 30, 40 miles away, and have, in fact, been very, very seldom outside of the nearest small town. For the middle ages, from, say, 20 onwards, there does seem to be so little to do in the village. There's a small club which goes on in the winter for the youngsters of 11 to 15, and there is also a club for the slightly older youth in a nearby hamlet. But for the 20s and so on, there's very little doing.
Ladies and gentlemen, the runner-up for the heat of the National Dairy Queen competition is Miss Hazel Cannon. And the winner, ladies and gentlemen, is Miss Brenda Tope.
Even though I live in a city or a town, coming back to the village, I always get a great thrill. It seems like coming home through the lanes. It's like coming to somewhere where I've really got my roots. I feel a person in a village. I become an individual, whereas in the city, I'm rather swamped by other people. Life is so much more simpler, so much more enjoyable in a village. People are so much more considerate.
Well, being rector in a country parish is very different from my last job, which was 27 years as a chaplain in the Royal Navy. There one was dealing with men alone and knew more or less one's job. Because here, in a small community, one has to tackle all sorts of odd and unexpected jobs, whether it's teaching the children in the school, or splicing new halyards on the mast for the tower, taking services, visiting people, and all sorts of things. I came here really partly by chance, and when I was at the Royal Naval College at Greenwich, the patron of this living asked me whether I'd care to come, and so it was, in a sense, coming back home, as I am a Devon man anyway. Because I've been here 4 years, some of my predecessors have been here upwards of 60. So I shall not live long enough, unless I'm 120, to equal a record of that kind. Well, I'm no expert on country life, although I happen to be rural dean and have 20 parishes to look after. In this particular area, which is a widely scattered one, we have, like a lot of villages, a whole lot of different kinds of people. There are retired people, the village people whose families have been here for many hundreds of years, according to the tombstones, and a general mixture. I think the main problem, which is probably the same in many villages, is to get people to thinking of the world outside the village, whether they are retired people who want to forget the world outside, or village people who don't want to know. And this applies both in politics, in economics, and in religious matters. Of course, making changes in any established community is always difficult. In this particular case, I made no changes in the church and its services for over a year. Since then, we have made certain changes, and gradually they have gained more support, and sometimes, to my surprise, almost the approval of the locals. The church has been entirely redecorated and relit. And as regards the services, we've introduced the parish communion as the most suitable form of public worship on 2 Sundays in the month, while retaining the more old-fashioned morning prayer on the other 3. As one of my parishioners once said, our parson is both high church and low church. And really, and I think in the village, one has to try to help everybody along, and at whatever speed they're willing to go. And at times, one has to exert a little bit more violent pressure by giving a lead. Words from the Gospel of St. Luke. Mary rose from Nazareth and went into the hill country with haste. If you look in the calendars of your prayer books for today, you'll see that it is the festival of the Visitation of the Blessed Virgin Mary. In order to visit her older cousin Elizabeth, it's not perhaps generally realized that Mary had to make a journey, possibly on foot, possibly by donkey, up over 80 miles of rough hill tracks into the mountains of Judea.
The sermons preached to bare-filled pews, the young, the old, the well-to-do. So different from the good old days when those who worked upon the land attended church before their pay was handed out. No better article of faith ensured men's faithful wait upon the Lord. But now with tractor and with cart, combine, baler, harrow, drill, the few men left to work the farms must often work as hard as any ancient straw-decked hand who went from church to cider keg and held the reins of horse-drawn ploughs, unconscious of the world around the belfry's range of pealing sound.
really a stranger to this part of the country. We've always been down this way for holidays. That's what really started it off. We always thought of why not live in Devon. It seems silly to come to a place for a holiday, really, and just for 2 weeks go away and sort of leave it all behind. Why not live there? Then the question was finding something to do while we're down there, and the obvious choice seemed a shop.
All right. What can I do for you? There was a small thing,
quite a remarkable shop, really, this one. Most unusual. It's one of the only, I should think, the only shops in the South Hams which has quite a regular trade all year. It has a good sort of delivery service. We take out 3 days a week, which can be remarkably good, especially more so during the summer. But I think, really, it's more of a seasonal shop. The trade can almost double in the height of the season. And then, of course, we have to sell all sorts of things, buckets and spades and balls, beach balls, sun hats, all sorts of things. Mind you, last year, our first summer, we stocked up with all sorts of things, and we rubber balls and things. We thought we had it all. And someone came in for a shrimp net. We didn't have a shrimp net. Diabolical thing. Couldn't have a shrimp net. I think we're very fortunate, really, to have found a place like this. It's really 1 in a million, isn't it? The countryside is some of the best in England, no doubt about that.
Well, I'd never want to go back to Berkshire.
I couldn't. We've been back there for a weekend or a week. We can't wait to come back here again. It's definitely the place as far as I'm concerned. It's not work, it's just like retiring at a very young age, and I enjoy that.
Right, just a moment, please. Kenneth and Kevin have got an interesting little problem over here. I wonder if you can help us out with it. They want to find out which they would prefer, a third of a bar of chocolate or a quarter of a bar of chocolate. Now, can you tell me how to do this? Can you help them out at all? Right. Now, let's see who can manage something then. Lucy, have you any idea?
Draw a third and draw a quarter.
Draw a third and draw a quarter. Now, how would we do that, Andrew?
You get a square with an even number of squares, and you divide it by 3 and by 4. It doesn't matter how wide it is, because you still divide it into 3 parts and 4 parts.
Good. That's fine. Kenneth, perhaps you can tell me some of the numbers that can be divided by 3 and by 4.
12.
Yes. Can you think of any others?
24. 36.
Yes.
48.
Good, I think that's probably enough. This school is a very small one, 49 children at present, and I have 1 assistant. It's, I suppose, typical of its kind in many ways. Here, I had difficulty this year, for instance, in persuading parents to let me take children away. I wanted to take them abroad to Belgium or Holland, but unfortunately I couldn't get quite enough support. Later on, I am taking a party, a very small party, to the Isle of Wight, and I think that this will probably begin to break people into the idea of going farther afield. It's my aim, really, I suppose, to bring the children a little out of the village and make them see the bigger world outside. Of course, schools of this size are gradually disappearing, and we ourselves in the fairly near future may well be amalgamated with another village school which will about double our size. In many ways, I think that this is quite a bad thing, because certainly in the small village school one can get to know one's children very well. There's the family atmosphere, and I always feel that it's easier to get the village school as part of the community much easier than in the town. Of course, we do lose them to the town anyway at 11. They have to go into the nearest comprehensive school, and that is the last we see of them, generally speaking.
Life in the city and in the village are two very different things. In a city, people rush. They haven't got time to stop, to think about other people, whereas in a village, people tend to stop and look around and think about other people. They're interested in other people.
Oh, I know what you're asking. So that swap the old man, I've got on to do that sometimes. So about my brother back, and deliver it, there'll be a couple of scotches down over you, so come on.
I think you know it. You told me, in fact. Mother's got a corn or some dad's been there or something's happened, you know. Some whiskey in there, will you? Yeah.
Catch your money fish? Oh? Catch your money fish?
Not very many, no. Let's go. On the back.
Yes,
The borderline is fairly close, in fact, to Canberra right now. Yes.
Well, I just pick out what I fancy and rubbish.
No, what? Crumpet, well,
come up sometimes, go down sometimes.
It came up just one strip, like that. And it wouldn't go any further.
I got boxed by one of those because we had more than it was all right. And I asked people who gave it in, what do you do with this piece of thing? They said, nip off the top. Actually, what I asked your builder. Yes, I know. It's on my way. Really is.
Thank you very much indeed. We very enjoyable evening. And mine, you may
I cover 3 parishes here, and you're amongst the people all the time, from the moment you go out on duty, or for that matter, when you're off duty and you're out, you're amongst the people and knowing what is going on. they see me, they want to speak to me. Sometimes it's something I can do for them. They may want to speak to me entirely on some private matter. Nothing to do with police work, but advice. They want some advice of some kind. It may be quite personal. And I often had personal requests and dealt with it for them. They've been very grateful for it. I think that might be lost. The policeman won't be looked on quite the same if he's riding around on a motorcycle or in a car. They won't feel like they can stop and speak to him. They won't feel it's their own man that they can have and talk to. One occasion I can well recall having saved a marriage. Both the man and the wife were at such a state that they decided to leave each other, and both decided to leave the house. I sat and I talked to them like a Dutch uncle, using phrases which, if it could have been recorded at that time, would have sounded completely alien to any policeman. I forgot actually that I was a policeman. I just was a fellow in the position of getting these two people together. I'd probably been more like a parson than a policeman. Eventually, I got them to speak to me and to agree with what I was saying. And then, being then about 4:30 to 5 o'clock in the morning, I thought it was about time I did leave them. And I picked the wife up from where she was sitting, and I placed her in the arms of her husband, and with the same, I left the house. Those two people are still living together today. And I feel that being one instance, there's been many other, not quite so dramatic as that, but many others where the local policeman has done good. I look on police work in a village not so much as being a law keeper. One naturally does keep the law and advise people around the district, but not one to go out and look and make trouble just for the effort of going and presenting yourself in a court. I find it's much better to speak to people, tell them what they can do and what they cannot do, and I think a much better result, much better law-keeping, law-abiding citizens result from that type of policeman's work. I'm nearly at the end of my service. I've actually another 8 months to go before I complete my 30 years. To an extent, I'm looking forward to it. And up to about 5 years ago, I would have said then, good, I'm come to the end of my service. I've had enough. But now I am actually at the end of it. And I've got some different thoughts about that now. I'm not quite so ready to say, good, I'm at the end of it. I realize now that I have come to the end of it. And I'm going to lose a great deal. I'm going to lose the contact with the public people. I'm going to lose a great deal of the friendship that is created as a result of working amongst the people.
The great thing about coming to a country place is you can't opt out of village life. If you do, you just become a cabbage, and sometimes not even as interesting as that. But if you join in everything, particularly bodies like the Women's Institute, which gives you all the interest you want, all the classes and everything, your church, which is a live wire and which you can work for, and the various welfare services, old people's clubs, any way that you can help, you start to become a person again, and not just an encumbrance on the earth. As I was just saying just now, take the Women's Institute. I know people laugh at it, we make jam and all the rest of it, but it's a great need in the village. Of course, there's always gossip in a village. What village hasn't gossip? Of course, in all gossip, there's only one answer to it. Take no notice. I know in this village lots of things that I could talk about, and I'm pretty certain that lots of people have a great deal to say about me. But why worry? It's a lovely world, and the thing to do is to appreciate it. Some people miss the young people. You don't get very many in a village. I've got to an age when I don't mind quite as much. I've lots of friends. My own young relations come to visit me, and they keep me alive, and I'm very contented with my lot. If I do get discouraged or dissatisfied, all down in the dumps. I've only got to come out and look at this lovely view, one of the most beautiful in England, and then you don't worry or feel unhappy anymore.
What change in village life the old have seen, but none so great as younger ones may know. The grasping cities sprawl beyond their margins every day, and soon the open green of England may be parks between one stretch of monstrous urban asphalt and the next. But men should pause to heed their ancient legacy of gracious space, and only fearfully expand into the secret lanes and sheltering woods, in case their progress-chasing greed should crush forever in the cloak of need their natural, inborn right to emulate the village people in their peace.